Let's continue our little TV story now, shall we?
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
So this new TV setup has definitely taken some getting used to over the last couple of days. This is my first ever smart TV, because I did an incredibly good job picking what my last dumb TV was going to be and made that TV last for years. So I've been playing some catch-up over the last couple of days with fancy features in the TVs, the arrival of HDR, getting the smart apps working, and even, finally, for the first time ever, despite having had the receiver since 2010, using the audio return channel HDMI ARC feature on my Onkyo box for the first time to run the smart TV apps. That has its own little quirks to it as well. However, this app's been working quite well, and I have the settings on the TV dialed into SDR at an appropriate brightness, so I think we should do a rematch with the kilowatt to see what the operating wattage is under normal conditions like this, and then we can address our little problem with screen number 2. I can't believe I just went all the way around the back of the setup and made a mess in order to swap power cables for a round cable so I can get some kilowatt readings on this TV now that I've dialed in all the settings. For those of you who don't know what a round is, it's an AC cable with the two round things on the other side. PS2 has them, and I think PS3 did as well. Then there's the one that's D and round. Basically, it's a way of saying what, and then there's the normal like 3-prong one where pretty much all kinds of computers use them. So yeah, I went behind there and I hooked everything up. Here's what I went with. First off, some unfinished business from last time. Game mode is separate from all the other picture modes out there. It's a system setting to disable a lot of the image processing, and when you do that, it locks it into game mode for you. But fundamentally, the color and picture settings I went with for this to show it a computer display properly is based on the dynamic setting with the brightness dropped down to about 15 out of 50. So numbers wise with the kilowatt, it equates to this. So about 30 watts as opposed to never going below 100 with the old TV. And if we turn the TV off, the standby wattage is about 7 watts or so. Just wait for it to drop off. 8, 7.4. I don't know if there's a way to turn this thing off a little harder so that it doesn't have as much wattage when it's not in use, but I'd say it's pretty decent. I just turn it on and yeah, so about 30 watts-ish. That actually used to be the wattage that my first flat panel, like a 19-inch square screen Samsung from the mid-2000s did when it was on. So 40-inch television doing what a computer monitor did like 15 years ago. I would say that's progress. And just for completeness' sake, here's why I call them rounds. Alright, enough power cable 101. So last go-round, we established the rather strange irony that the major brand Samsung monitor that I've been using as my screen number 2 since I set up my streaming setup in 2020, that does not have any ways to mount a custom mount on the back of the monitor, and yet the Walmart Special On monitor does. Let's shine some light on the situation. It is kind of weird, but even though this panel is better than the Samsung, there's a reason why it's been over in the project area. It has a default stand that's basically a giant V. If I had put this on top of a bookshelf speaker to try and use as my screen number 2, it probably would have tumbled off and fallen to its doom right now. So, well, it's about time this thing got the respect that it has long deserved. And, well, speaking of long deserved respect, AMD Athlon, my original processor. But let's go get what we have to play with here in order to custom mount it up to the desk. And have the screen number 2 finally be independent of that bookshelf speaker and have a custom adjustable mount, like a real setup should have. Alright, let's check this thing out. The Wally Monitor desk mount, model GSD M001, 17-inch to 32-inch monitor size, does a little bit of swiveling, apparently it spins around too. Gas spring, has some cable management, supports curved monitors, looks like I can turn the monitor sideways if I want to use it as an e-reader, and up to 17.6 pounds for the weight, which I know these panels are light as all heck. I made sure to double check, that's single digit in terms of pounds. So what do we have to play with here? So here's the idea. We'll put this near the main pipe on the desk, and then we will put the clamp as far up the pipe as possible, so that way the arm can take it out over the top of the speaker. Should be able to do that. I'm probably going to end up putting this up higher than it usually shows in the sample photos, but that's the idea. Get the second screen up and off to the right, and over the top of that bookshelf speaker. Maybe even have some room where we can put some stuff underneath and have it be fully adjustable. It's all a matter of how I want to rearrange everything. Let's see what we have to play with here. Yeah, as I thought, it's basically the same stuff as the one for the TV, just some things are kind of shaped differently, like the arm that goes out to the monitor. But yeah, you have a clamp, you have a grommet, you have a main pipe to connect it all to, a plate to go on the back of the monitor. This is all stuff that I've seen before now that I've done this with the big one, with the TV. But I'm going to follow the directions because, as we saw with the TV mount, these manufacturers all basically put their own little spin, so to speak, on what is normally a rather simple device. And I think to not scratch the screen, we're going to swap from default stand to base plate over in the bedroom, which gives me an excuse to make the bed again. But I don't know. This thing is small enough that it'll actually fit over here. So we can just keep everything in the project area once we get everything set up. We just got to remember to transfer power supplies because the external power supply of this one is different than the one for the Samsung. I think the simplest thing we can do is put the panel plate on first and then set up the other stuff. There's what I wanted to see. Thought so. The whole apparatus has an adjustable height, so we're going to put this up as high as we can and use the gas spring arm to position the monitor. Yes! I knew it. All the sample pictures and stuff made it look like the height was fixed at about 2/3 up, but we're going to send this thing to the roof. Well, this looks like some progress here. There's actually, you adjust these Allen screws to adjust the range of the clamp depending on how thick your desk is. So I actually had to move this up from here to here because otherwise it wouldn't work with my desk. So some really interesting designs with all of this. You know what's really sad? I mean, all I really did was grab an Allen key and just turn a couple of those screws. But it's just weird to think that this has never been something I've had to think about. But there are people out there with like zero mechanical aptitude that would consider this to be too complicated for them. And I'm just like, how does that even happen? I mean, my background is electronics, not necessarily, gears and machines and stuff like that. But even I can pick up, quite quickly, mind you, what a set of directions and technical diagrams is telling me to do in order to assemble something. And there's people out there that aren't like that. It's one of those things where you'll give yourself a headache getting too academic about stuff. What? The directions are pretty straightforward and there's pictures. It's like, I don't know. Let's continue putting this thing together.
Hi, people of YouTube! I'm the gas spring stand, and I was zip-tied together because the minute somebody undid that zip tie, I was like this.
So how do you, so when you have everything set up, how do you keep it from, I don't know. Should be enough height between all of this to get that monitor up in the air. I better read the directions before I screw something up. Well, here's something I wasn't expecting to stumble upon. So here's the on monitor, which strangely enough, despite being a Walmart special, has places to mount a custom mount. So you want to take the stock mount off. I look at this thing and I'm like, that gap probably has something that you poke in order to get the stock mount to slide off because it snapped together back when I first got it. Well, what do I have that'll fit in that opening? Well, I found something that fits perfectly, and it's the last thing some of you folks would probably think of. A Korean chopstick. Yeah, Korean chopsticks are basically a cross between chopsticks and Western silverware, so they're flat. So it fits perfectly. Zing! Just poke it a little, and then boom, off it goes. Hope I didn't just crack the screen. This is looking very familiar. And this just goes in like this, right? Oh yeah, it goes in like that. So now let's just see how much this extra hardware we need to bolt the thing to my desk and get it in the right spot. Alright, well, back over to the main area. We'll set everything up and see how high we can get everything to go. I knew it. I knew that this would barely make it past the TV, and here we are. It's one reason why I went with a 1080p television, not its 4K equivalent, because the 4K one would have been another inch or so in width, and as you can see, we are just about out of room to put the screen 2 off to the side. But at least we're not teetering a default stand monitor on top of a bookshelf speaker anymore. Yeah, so pretty much went together just like the one for the television. But the big thing is, I'm probably going to need a new desk if I want a bigger TV in here, because the mounting points for the hardware, very, very challenged and stuff like that. I don't want pipes popping up over the top of my setup. At the same time, it's a bit of a, yeah, I might need some different hardware if I want to get a bigger TV in here. Probably another desk as well. But anyways, looks like this is working out just the way I thought it would. And here's the view from the front. Pretty awesome if I do say so myself. And the fun part is, you can't even tell that the on monitor is actually an on monitor in Geek House Dark Mode anyways, because you can't see the logo. They look like two matching panels with little tiny bezels on the side. So the displays look a lot more contemporary than what they replaced, that's for sure. And the best part is, no more stupid little, yeah. The fun part is, with this custom arm, this display can actually be in front of the bookshelf speaker. We don't have to slide the bookshelf speaker back and forth to move the display, and basically I should have stopped being a coward about this a long time ago. But yeah, there we go. Nice. That screen is very, very adjustable, more so than it was before. The issue is going to be when I go, the next time I upgrade TV sizes, I'm totally going to have to redo everything. But 40-inch TV at the center of everything has a giant 1080 monitor, along with a secondary screen off to the side, and similar picture quality now on the two panels. Basically means that even if I'm watching something on screen 2, that something is going to look a lot better than before. What a setup. I should have checked this out a long time ago. I was just being a pansy and not checking out the various mounting hardware that was available on Amazon. Meanwhile, back at the project area, Samsung. Such an embarrassment that there are no mounting points for custom mounts for this monitor. What was I thinking when I got this thing? When was this thing made? 2016. Yeah, things were different back in 2016 versus what they are today. Yeah, Well, Omnimedia content creation has changed a lot of things on YouTube, on Twitch, pretty much on the internet as we know it, and it's not going to go back to the way it was before. But yeah, it looks like this thing is kind of a relic of a bygone era. When you would just buy a monitor. Well, this is an office monitor, I think. I think it was a Staples special, if I remember right. So it was made to be sold to, like, office people that wouldn't be playing with fancy hardware anyways. How times have changed. How times have changed. And they're changing even more as the work-from-home era of the pandemic has changed what people consider a desk or an office setup. Hey, by the way, I got this router here. This is the router that's been sitting on my in the background on my streams for a while. In the midst of all of this mess, I finally found the AC adapter for it. So finally, I can set up this old Rosewell router as an access point, and I think I'm going to use it for all of the smart lights and stuff. So all the Internet of Things devices and whatnot that just communicates for voice commands, send them through this piece of junk and see if it can handle it. But that is another discussion for another day. As much as this monitor didn't have any support for custom stuff, the Walmart special did, and I am glad that I have this new setup. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.